Hey everybody, I am here with my good friend Kevin Marron of Gutter Kings, and I'm really excited to spotlight this business because I've heard Kevin speak. I know Kevin's business pretty well, and he has really took something that most people would say, "Hey, this is really is an opportunity," and built it into a major service company in the B2B space. So, Kevin, give us a little bit of background, please.
John, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Some background about me is there an echo there?
We should be good, yeah.
Okay. Background about me is I'm 50 now. I mean, it's crazy. This is my 33rd year as an entrepreneur. And I really started before that. I started 12 years old, delivering a newspaper. You had to go collect your own money, tips and everything. So it was kind of like a little entrepreneur. I'm dating myself how long ago that was.
I was just going to say, I don't think most people know what a newspaper is.
Everybody got the newspaper. That's the first thing you did in the morning, walk out, grab it. You could get the newspaper for $1.35. So, I mean, I was doing it for next to nothing. Ride the bike around at 5:30 in the morning out in New Jersey. It was freezing cold. But I didn't know any different. I just was doing it. And I was a 12, 13-year-old that had a lot of money or cash compared to other people. I started cutting lawns, kind of as a kid in the neighborhood, cutting everybody's lawn. And I saw that I could make a lot of money of that. I had some unique things that helped me be an entrepreneur. One was my mom was one. And she just I watched her do it. I watched her work, and I watched her back. This is a long time ago. My father was an accountant, so I understood numbers, and my father was always talking to me about numbers, and I liked them. So he would talk to me about, well, what if you get 30 lawns? What if you had this type of mower? We would have these discussions. So I'm 15 years old. I'm like, I'd be making over $1,000 a week. And back then that was a lot.
Yeah.
So I was sitting there at 16 writing a notebook and like, wait, I can make over $1,000 a week. What am I doing here as a sophomore in high school? Like, I'm wasting my time. Back then, college graduates were making 24 grand coming out.
Yeah.
But with my mom made me believe I could do anything. And then I watched an interesting thing. I don't even think I really told my mom this, but my parents got divorced, but I watched my mom surpass my father's income.
Yeah.
And she loved what she was doing. And then she started making probably 30 or 40% more than he was. And she was loving it. And my dad was not liking it at all. And I thought, I was like just putting it all together. So when I was 17, I decided I'm going to go all in on this. I'm going to cut lawns. I can see myself making a couple $1,000s a week. 100,000 was the holy grail back then. Of course, I'm 17, so it doesn't go how you plan. In a notebook, I was going to make 100 grand at 18. It didn't work out that way, but I really went all in on it. I didn't go to school. Well, I did go to college a little bit, but I was much more interested in cutting lawns, so I dropped out. And I did that. And then I understood about buying real estate. I did a BRRRR method before there was ever called a BRRRR method. I didn't know. I did really well on that. And then I thought, all right, well, this is where you can really make money. So I was doing a combination of that. And then I got into the gutters because I had the landscaping business, and somebody asked me, hey, can you go up there and clean the gutters on my house? And I had been on ladders and stuff growing up. And I went and grabbed a ladder at a friend of mine's house I didn't have one with. I went up there with the blower. The guy said, I'll give you $75. I did it in like 10 minutes. I was a young athletic kid. And when I got down, like, you couldn't tell me anything. I'm like, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm cutting lawns and it takes me 45 minutes and I got to have a mower and I get $40 or $38 or whatever I was getting. And I just did this at 75. And I was thinking I could go get 100 for this.
Yep.
Who's going to do this? Yeah. Nobody wants to do what I just did. So I started doing that and I saw trends. I had a nice little landscaping business. I owned a home and I was like mid-20s. And I saw some trends in that, which is something that's worked for me in life. I saw trends where a lot of the people who were working for landscapers, this happened in Long Island as well.
Yep.
They starting their own companies. I saw it popping up left and right. And even my own guys were like leaving to start their own companies. and they had the labor pool. And I'm really talking about Hispanic workers. They were kind of, I saw them, they're going to dominate this thing. So I sold out, and I did it perfectly timing, because that absolutely happened over the next couple of years. But while I was doing that, I didn't just sell. I gave myself a year, and I said, I'm going to build this gutter business up so that I can just slide in there. And in New Jersey, it's very seasonal. But I said, oh, I'll go make, 50, 60 grand on the side here. Then that'll hold me off while I'm doing properties and stuff. So I did it. And then everything just changes when you have opportunity. So I did that for like a year. And then I started driving down the streets. I see all these apartment complexes, and I say, what the hell am I doing houses for?
Yeah.
I was so good at it and fast. I had one helper. I was like, we could do this whole complex in a day.
Yeah.
And I might go get $3 grand. And then I just again, you start spinning. So I just started walking in 25 complexes a day, every day, when I wasn't working, which was a lot of the time up in New Jersey. And I loaded up so many, John. I had to turn the faucet off. I said, how am I going to get all these done? Because it's very, being from Long Island, it's going to snow, and people want them done after Thanksgiving. So I did that, and I just kept growing the business. I won't get into all the stuff that happened to me really in 2006 and 7. I was doing a lot of real estate, and I got cocky, and everybody who was around that time, it was like printing money. And for a guy who was cutting lawns and cleaning gutters, you go make 50, 60 grand, and you barely you put some paint and carpet. It messed up my head, and I started thinking, wow, I could make millions doing this. Why am I cleaning gutters? I come home dirty. There's risk, everything. So I took my eye off the ball. It was a horrible decision. So when everything happened in 2008 and 9, I had debt. I had not put the effort into my gutter business. I had let a lot of that go, and I had to rebuild it.
Yeah.
But looking back in hindsight now, 15 years later, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. Mm-hmm. It really was.
Now, how familiar does it feel now versus 07?
That's a good question. It felt super familiar for a lot of years.
Yeah.
When that happens and people tell that story, it's not like you rebound in 6 months.
No.
I mean, it took me like 5 years.
Yep. I
had a ton of debt. I had horrible credit. I had it did stuff to me mentally.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. This is going to sound crazy, but I ended up divorced on my brother's couch. I didn't end up divorced because of that. I was already going through a divorce, but I was on my brother's couch saving money, and that changes you, because I was somebody who, I just told that story, I had success in my teens and 20s, and I used to beat myself up about it. Like, why the hell did you do that?
Yep.
All you had to do, you were make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, but you wanted to be, I read like Art of the Deal and those books back then. You wanted to be Trump. You wanted to do all this.
Yep.
And I leveraged stuff. And then in the beginning, when I started real estate, I was doing it smart, like you are. 2, 3, 4 families, cash flowing properties, C class. Yes, I was in D class and stuff, which I didn't love being in those areas, but those were safe. I wanted to sell those and go into the nicest areas, do condo conversions. And I learned, when I look back, I say, why wouldn't I bring somebody like a 50-year-old who had done it before? You couldn't tell me anything. I'm just going to figure it all out. It's a horrible idea. Do it with somebody, partner with them who's done it before. If you're a young guy and you have energy, you can do lots of the legwork. They can protect you, teach you stuff in one conversation that can take you a year of getting kicked in the teeth. So I made that huge mistake too. So during that 2008, 9, 10, 11, I was grinding it out and everything. But yeah, I was a different person. I was just working, and I wasn't really energetic and fun. I was just like, I was mad at myself. But I learned a lot. And then I said, I got to do this right. So I was rebuilding that slowly, but I had the cash flow issue. And again, I didn't reach out to somebody like you, and just, I was probably embarrassed. I didn't know you, but like somebody who was high level in finance. And I could have said, hey, here's my situation. I have all this work coming in. I'm turning it down. How do I go about this? You could have told me ways to do that. I could have probably found people who would have liked to make a return on their money, or factoring like we did, all these things. I didn't do it. So what I would do was basically go down to like fumes on my bank account, financing it myself, be totally stressed out. I mean, John, I used to go down to like $19 in my bank account because I knew I could like double the money. So why would I leave 1,000 in there? I'll just go do it. I'll go get another. And if anybody who does commercial stuff, especially apartment complexes, they might string you along for 90 days to get paid. Yep. But I had guys, and I was grabbing guys, and we were in vans, and I was renting vans, and it was very seasonal. I was making money, but I had to pay those guys basically that day or on Friday. Yep. So I would be waiting for this kind of windfall to come in like February or March. It would come in this time of year almost, and I would have done the work back in Thanksgiving and Christmas. Yeah. So I could have found many different ways. I used to spend too much time looking back at this age and saying how, like driving and saying, I would have did this, I would have fixed it. But you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. I didn't go in masterminds. I didn't do anything. I definitely read books and I was trying to learn, but I was too proud, maybe ego. You think you know everything. It was really stupid. I should have asked for more help. So that could go. Another thing is getting a mentor. Yeah. So I rebuilt it, and but I had a different idea. I said, how do I do this on a bigger level? Like I need to get, and that's when I started going into other states. Throughout that issue, I found subcontractors. I used to, when I had too many jobs, I would get a job and I would sub it out, and I would say, you're going to get 70%, I'm going to get 30%, but you can't get paid till I get paid. So you got to be okay waiting 60 days. Yep. And these jobs are really profitable if you know how to do them. But then I needed to have like a good relationship with that person because they had to trust me. Yep. So I couldn't just like go on Craigslist and get someone. So it was always somebody I knew that knew me from back in the day. And I did that with some people. So I was doing that with subcontractors and then doing my own work. And then I started to think, what if I had like 20 subs and I could pay them on time, and then I give them maybe more like 55 cents, 55% instead of 70. And I start doing the numbers just like a kid again. And I'm like, yeah, I could make $1 million a year doing this. Yeah. And I could like do this from a computer. So that's how I was thinking in 2012 and 13. And I started working on that. But if, like anything, it's much harder than you think it's going to be. Yeah. Every entrepreneur who's done well, John, you're one, everyone, when you look back, it's much harder than you thought it was going to be. Yeah. It could be more rewarding, and it could be, you have to enjoy the journey. It's going to be harder. Will you ever hear somebody say, yeah, I want to get my business so I have more free time? What are you talking about?
That doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't work that way. Could you have more money? Yeah.
Here's something I think we all struggle with, or at least people that have been where we're at. Because you said enjoy the journey. And I would be lying if I said that I enjoy the journey every day. I enjoy helping people. Yeah. But what makes us great is that we want everything and we want yesterday, and we're never truly satisfied, right? We're blissfully dissatisfied, except that bliss part is hard to have in your life at all times, right? Because you're thinking, well, I did $1 million last month. I want to do $1.2 million or $1.5 million. Why isn't that happening tomorrow, right? Mm-hmm. Or today? So how do you balance that? Because that is something that I struggle with so hard, and I understand it's a blessing and it's a curse. But to me, like I beat the shit out of myself daily.
Well, that's a great point, because that's what we all do. You know, the people who aren't doing shit think they're doing a lot, and the people who are doing a lot never think they're doing enough. So I think it just works for, I don't think it ever changes. I read a book, Gap and the Gain, and it really hit home to me where people in our thing, we don't look at the gain, like what we've done over the last year or 2 years or 3 years. We always look at the gap where we want to get to, and we get focused on that. And that can be, so one thing I did, I was doing this before this, but I look at my numbers every morning of where I was in sales last year at that time in the cycle. And it's always higher, and it's been higher every single year since I started doing that in 2018. So that kind of like sets my frame for the day.
Okay.
I mean, I'll look identical if I was at $1,543,000.17 on this day, and now I'm up 16%. I have a whole formula and a thing. I mean, what can you really be mad about? You're going in the right direction. Now, sometimes I think to myself, well, what if there's a recession or things change and I go the other way? But knowing like how I'll be is I'll just sit there and I'll figure out how to get back. Yeah. I'll dig in. I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh man, I'm down. What's going on? I like solving problems. That's like kind of what we all do. I like being resourceful and figuring stuff out. So that doesn't scare me. But if you're looking at it every day, you can pivot very quickly.
Yeah.
Like I'll look and I'll say, okay, I was up 17% this last year at this time. Now I'm at 16.1. What do I need to do here?
Yeah.
I want to increase this, because sometimes there's fluctuation, and I look at what the reasons are, and I like to solve those problems. You got to look at stuff daily.
Yeah.
It's too late. It's too late after it happens.
Yeah.
That's what I did in real estate. I looked after it, basically after it was already, I knew it was over months before it was really over.
Yeah.
Before it's like you're telling your friends like, yo, I'm fucked. You knew you were fucked. So it was too late to do it at that point. But when I used to look back, I said, well, I probably should have figured that out 6 months before.
Yeah.
You know, we look at what happened in real estate. I remember I had friends who basically never saved money, never did anything, and they were buying like $500,000 homes. And I was like, I remember thinking, if this guy's buying homes, I don't know if this is where I need to be.
Yeah.
You know?
True. With the stated no doc.
Yeah.
Give anyone with a pulse a mortgage.
That's always a good thing. If people who you don't really admire and think a lot of in business are all getting into something, that's my time to exit.
Yes, absolutely. If you're getting your hair cut and the barber's telling you about something.
If he's telling you about crypto and everything, sell.
Yeah, sell.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to go forward, right? Because I do feel that how you raise your kids is all encompassing and a very big part of being an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the next generation who's going to run a business, right? So you said something earlier, you know, your mom gave you this belief that you can do anything, be anything. How did she instill that in you, if you don't mind sharing that?
That's a good question. You know, real quick, I was so blessed to have great parents. I lost my father when I was 21 to cancer, but my mom is 83. She still works for Gutter King.
Oh, that's awesome.
She's a kid. She's just a badass. But you know, I just watched that. My parents definitely, they didn't like say you're like, we didn't have that trophy thing where you come in 5th place and everybody gets a trophy, because they made us say you got to earn it.
Yep.
And there was none of that stuff back then. They were from Irish immigrants, so they worked really hard. They both got masters and went to college, and that was, you know, very coming from Irish immigrants, really hard. So I watched them do really well, and I saw them in comparison to maybe some of their cousins and other family members.
Yep.
So that's why education was really big thing, even though I didn't go. My parents really fought that. And that was the path back in the 80s. But my mom in particular, I just saw her like always moving up. And I would ask her, how do you know how to do that or anything? And then she used to tell me stuff like, you know, the number one thing is to be resourceful. You can figure out anything. You have to be willing to dig in and do it. And I just watched my mom do that. And she would just, my sister, my brother, and she would make us feel like as long as we put in the work and we were willing to, we could do anything. And I think for me as an entrepreneur, having wins young. I also played sports and I was pretty good at sports. Having those like small wins,
Yeah.
it builds your confidence. You know, I have 3 stepchildren here who are early teenagers, and I'm always trying to get them to get those wins because that win gets momentum.
Yeah.
And if you sit around and look at your phone and you don't do anything, you don't get wins at all. So yeah, the newspaper route and some other things I did, I went out and put out flyers to weed people's gardens and stuff. I was getting wins and money. And then I was like, okay, I see how this works. And then it moved up to landscaping and different stuff. But my parents just made me feel like I could do it. And they also allowed me to do it. It wasn't that coddling, like they just kind of let us, it was a different time back then, but they just kind of let us run.
Yep. That's true. My parents too. Fresh off the boat from Italy. My God.
Yeah. Another thing that was a huge benefit looking back, when I was a teenager and I was cutting lawns and stuff, my friends that were working at the mall for peanuts. Mm-hmm. One of the things I watched, my sister was 5 years older than me. She worked at a video store. She was super smart. She was basically managing a video store for $3.35 an hour.
Oh my God.
And I was cutting lawns, making like 3 or 4 times as much as her. And she's my big sister. And she had to have my parents drive her to the video store and pick her up. We'd go pick her up. And I used to ask my dad, what is she doing?
Yeah.
Like she could be doing so much other. I mean, I was thinking about that at 13. Yeah. She's making like, she came here for 4 hours and after taxes, she's got $10.
Yeah.
And you got a driver. I mean, it sounded crazy to me. So I was always thinking like that. But here's the thing, when I was doing the landscaping and when you're dealing with adults and you're a 14-year-old kid, and sometimes people are kind of assholes about their lawns.
Yep.
It allowed me to like really figure out customer service, how to deal with people, how to maneuver. I mean, when I look back, when I think at 15, I really knew a lot of stuff probably a lot of 20-year-olds don't know. It was a big benefit. And if you work at a video store and you're not, my sister might have been kind of doing something more important, but if you're just stocking shelves or folding clothes at Gap, what are you really learning? There's nothing wrong with that, but you're going to learn a lot more. That's why I want my kids, I want them to get into stuff.
Yep. Figure it out.
Throw them to the wolves a little bit. So I think my mom, at least, she understood that. Because I remember I had a problem with one of our neighbors. He screamed at me. He was a total ass. I came home and I told my mom, hey, I don't know, you might need to call him. She said, no, you need to go back over there. This is not my problem. It's your problem. Yep. And I fixed it. I did not want to walk down that street again. He was huge and he was an angry guy, but I figured it out.
Yeah.
That's a big benefit. Your family and parent, man, that's such a benefit. It really is.
Yep. So take us to kind of today, right? So what I love about your setup, everyone talks about VAs. Everyone talks about systems and building a business with processes. You actually have it, and I would say you are definitely an expert in it, even though you don't really promote that part of it. Can you bring us kind of up to speed on, like, as you've adapted, how you've grown the gutter business, utilizing systems, processes, VAs?
Okay, well that's the big difference from like 2012 and really even when I was cutting lawns. So I always try to figure, this is how when I'm working, since I've been 8 years old, my dad had me out in the yard. I was always thinking of how do I do this faster? Yep. That's what my mind's on the whole time. Other kids' minds are on baseball and girls. I was like, how would I do this faster? And that's how, like, I love doing that. I do it to this day. So when I was out cleaning gutters, I was always thinking of how do I shave time off? How do I do this? My mind's always running with numbers. I'm timing stuff. I'm doing it. So I applied that when I got out of the field and I was running the business. I said, I'm spending too much time answering emails. I'm spending too much time. How do I delegate this all and do it? And I watched a podcast or listened to one in like maybe 2013 or 12 about virtual assistants. The guy just had a really good podcast. So I started looking into it like we do. You get resourceful. I probably killed like a whole weekend. Like, John, I don't know if you do this. If I get interested in something, like, you can't tell me anything.
I get obsessed.
Yeah, like if we got a movie tickets, I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like, you're really gonna study VAs instead of go to the movies? Yes, I'll study VAs. Like and within 2 days, I'll know like a lot.
Yep.
And that's what I did. And then I thought, okay, I can do screen records, I can write up documents, I can get them to do it. It's cheap. And so I was having them collect data on all these apartment complexes and condo associations. And at that point, I had gotten into other states. And that's when I saw, wow, they could be emailing them, contacting them. I could write templates. I started doing that. That changed everything for me. My business grew really fast, but I started buying my time back. And then I said, hey, I'm going to do the high level stuff, only the stuff that matters. Now, that's great in theory. Of course, you're going to get dragged into stuff, but I really try to do stuff. If I can delegate it, if I can hand it off, if it's something that's done over and over again, I'll sit there for a half hour and I'll make videos. I'll make a document. I'll make it so a 12-year-old can understand it. It might take me an hour and a half, but I look at it like I'm retiring from this forever. So I have a lot of virtual assistants going. I don't have just Gutter King. I'm involved in other businesses, I own real estate and stuff. I have it all being handled. I even get drained when I was doing taxes and you have to upload your taxes and everything. Yeah, I have my virtual assistant do it. I don't want to do it.
Nice.
I make a quick video and I have videos from old times. I just don't want to do that stuff. Yeah. Pull bank statements, everything. I mean, I have bookkeeper and doing all that stuff now, but anything I get drained on, I get rid of it. Because I'm probably like yourself. We have ideas all the time. I love developing ideas, getting them going, and then I try to hand them off to virtual assistants. And when you understand that delegating, that's where you can make a lot of money because you don't have the constraint of time. You can't do it. You got to get home. You got your boys are waiting for you and everything. You can't sit there and do it all day. Yeah. So I have kind of people going 24/7 doing it. The reason I like virtual assistants is I really like people from the Philippines. I have people from other places too, but they have incredible work ethics. They're ethical. They work really hard. Yes, they cost less money. But as I said in the mastermind, if they were the same, I would still do it.
Yeah.
I would still do it. They will run. So you could take somebody over there and it's not $3 an hour. $3 an hour is they're basically copy and pasting. So let's just call it $8 or $10 an hour and up. That person, an $8 or $10 an hour person, will run circles around somebody you're paying 25, 26 here. If you get the right person and you have the right systems for it, they'll have a great attitude. They'll be grateful. They'll be sending you pictures of when they buy a home and all this stuff. I start to know their family and their kids. It's been a great experience.
That's awesome.
And
what?
Go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
And part of that is kind of because the work ethic has changed a lot on we'll call it lower level wages in this country. Not that they've ever been good, but too many people here, they're making $22 an hour and they want to tell you everything they're not going to do, and they want to have an attitude and they want to act like they're making $100,000, but what they should be doing is overperforming, and that's the way to get there.
Yep.
And enjoying the journey too, and just saying, hey, I'm going to be here for 8 hours. I'm going to kick ass. And I have my own experience from people who work for me who went on to do really good things. They always had that attitude. I never had somebody who was a pain in the ass, who didn't want to do shit. And I found out, and then they left. And I found out 3 years later that they're killing it in life. They never do.
That attitude stays with them.
It stays with them. They just go work for another company to do the same stuff. They make lateral moves.
Yep. And
I've had guys who have been on my Blue Collar Millionaire show. One guy in particular, he makes well over $1 million a year in roofing. He used to work for me when he put himself through college. He was a kick-ass employee, had an incredible attitude, work ethic, and now he's making millions of dollars. It doesn't surprise me in the least.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. When you have the right attitude, you understand that you want to develop skill sets. The skill sets are what allow you to bring more value and ultimately make more money.
Yeah.
Someone with a shitty attitude is never going to learn the skill set required to earn more. They're just going to bitch, complain, and be toxic.
in that person's case, he asked me a million questions, not a million. He asked me a lot of questions during the day. He wanted to learn. He had a good attitude. So you know what I did? I told him everything that works, everything that doesn't. And he's used a lot of those things. You know that, John, when you have it doesn't have to be a young person. When you have a motivated person who's working hard for you, who asks questions, you will help them.
100%.
Successful people will help people on the way up if they're hungry and they're eager. And it's the total opposite if they're draining and they're bitching and complaining. Man, I'm just trying to get away from them.
100%.
So getting back to things, so it's really worked for me when I started expanding, and then I started going into warmer states, so I had longer seasons. And now we're in 29, but it's really like 24. 5 we have small imprints in, and it's just been great. And it's the thing about gutter cleaning is it's pretty simple. It's except for being on a roof. But people don't really think about it or care about, but it's residual work. So you're doing them over and over. That's a key thing to me in business, is getting business where people bring you more and more business. Like you can either you can make money off those customers over and over again. Like I have an apartment complex I've been doing since 2000, the year 2000.
Wow.
I literally have one company in New Jersey I made well over $1 million on, because they have a bunch of apartment complexes.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But it's the same thing with you, John. We build these relationships, and then every time somebody asks me about financing, I send them your way.
I know. I appreciate that, brother.
Yeah, it's just like you want to have that. So even if you don't have a residual business, you just have to build that type of network where people are always referring you or coming back to you or asking you questions.
And that's doing the right thing, right? Just doing the right thing, over delivering, and try to help. I think not enough people understand that it's not about the dollar today. It's about building the relationship. You ask me what's more important, money or relationships? It's the relationship, because you know what? When you do the right thing and you have enough relationships, the money always follows, and it's not immediate. It's a long-term game.
The relationship, that's huge. So I've developed on purpose for the last 5 or 6 years, being an entrepreneur is kind of lonely sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on my own. I had people working for me and stuff, but I decided I want to get around high level entrepreneurs. I got a mentor in 2015 when I came to Atlanta. The guy has been great. I got another one here. And I started doing that. Then I started getting into masterminds, and that's how you and I have met. Yeah. And you get with these people, and now I look at, if something happened like that in 2008, I'd have a network to go to.
Yeah.
And somebody'd say, hey, I went through that. We have a good friend in common, Mike Burns, and he's in real estate, and we were going through walks, and I've gone through some of the things he said. He's much, much further. And this funny thing is he's going through them at the same age I was at the time. But when I was going on that walk, I told him, you're so much further ahead than I was at this age. That's why he's going to navigate through it. And he is. He's kicking ass. And he'll come out and he'll have some battle wounds, and he'll keep going. Where I got kicked in the teeth and I was rolling around on the ground for a little while. I got up, but I didn't really survive like he's going to. And it was maybe worse then, but he has other people like that too. And that's a huge part of having a network, because you can't ask your buddy who gets drunk all weekend and just shows up late for work. Hey, I'm $1.3 million in the hole on real estate. What do you think I could do? What's he going to tell you? Nothing. You don't even want to hear it. He'll probably tell you something and send you in the wrong direction.
Yep.
So it's really important to have people who've been through things, people who can help you, and people who want to help you. That's been a huge thing for me. And it changes your mindset too, because, John, we meet these people, and, I used to think, actually my big goal in like 2012 was like, I could make $1 million a year doing this. I couldn't even wrap my brain around that. And now we look, there's people making that a month. There's people making that in a week. It's just, we set these limits and these ceilings on a For most of my life, I had $100,000 ceiling. Then I moved it up to about 175.
Yep.
And whatever you put, you'll never go further than you think you can in your mind. If you think 200 is I'm not saying anything negative to anybody doing that. That's fine. But if you think 175 is your top thing, you can never get higher. You never will.
That is so true. It's like a thermostat, right? So
yep.
The thermostat in your house, if it's set to 70 degrees, if it's over that, it's going to cool down. If it's under that, it heats up. You got to learn how to turn that thermostat all the way up. And the best way to do that is by visualizing and being around people who have done it, because success leaves clues. I'll tell you something I am incredibly guilty of. The way I do it and the way I stretch, and I've been doing this for the last 5 years. I go out on the boat and I cruise canals in really, really, really wealthy areas.
Yep.
And when you see, that house is like 10 mil, 20 mil, 40 mil, that makes you stretch because you can see it, you can feel it, you can smell it, touch it. And that's helped me a lot.
Wow, John, that's really helped me as well. When I was I grew up in a nice area growing up with my parents and stuff. But then when I had my first place and stuff, I was in not a great spot. That's what you do when you're young. You're moving up. And when I was cutting lawns, I went to more expensive towns than where I grew up in, where there was more money. And I used to just cut lawns and just wow, what does this guy do? Because they were 2 or 3 times the size of the house I grew up in.
Yep.
And I thought we did have a nice house, but these were half big. And I used to drive around there on the weekends. I used to bring my girlfriend back then. And I used to drive around, and she used to tell me, "Why are we in here? You're never going to buy one of these." I said, "I am going to buy one of these."
Yeah.
She would kill it, and I was just pay her no mind. And it didn't work out for her, but it worked out for me. So
100%.
You have to have, and then being around people who've done things, you have to have that borrowed belief is really powerful.
Yeah.
If you want to buy apartment units, hang out with people who own 2,000 apartment units. Getting 100 or 200 is not going to be scary. You're actually going to go. Same thing. If you want to get in great shape, you hang out with 5 guys who are in the gym all the time and don't throw crap in their body. You're going to get in much better shape. We all know that analogy about the 5 people, but too many people don't do it. You and I really try to live that now. So when I started getting around all those people, I kind of deleted people out of my life.
Yeah.
I used to go out and drink back then and stuff. And you start hanging out with people. I remember sometimes I would have some drinks. I would say, if I wasn't drinking beer right now, what would I be doing with this person? That sounds rough, but why would I be here?
That's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with having some beers or anything. That's how it looked. Why am I here right now? Because he's down to do it, I guess. And because why, so I really started trying to get with people just at that mastermind we're at. I love those conversations. People are thinking big. What are they doing? And you think, how can I help you? How can you help me? It's just awesome conversations. That has changed my personality back to being energetic again, because I had lost it for 5 or 6 years for at least.
Yeah. Being in the right room is everything.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. And here's the thing, so many people have been through it, and when you're in the right room, people aren't highlighting or showcasing everything that they're doing or all the highlights, right? They're basically saying, hey, this is what happened. I've been through that. This is how I got out of it. This is how I fixed it.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
And then they have, you can tap into their network.
Yeah.
So how I met you was, I'm in a mastermind called the Deal Maker. Mike Burns is in there. I posted in the Deal Maker, hey, I'm looking to do this. And then Mike messages me. He says, hey, talk to John Federa. He's my buddy. So, of course, I feel super confident. We get on. You deliver tenfold for me. We go, and now I do it to you. But, you can tap into other people's networks. So if you're having problems with something, how many times have you said, hey, I hear what you're going through. You should talk to so-and-so. He can help you.
Yeah.
That's so powerful, because how else do you know that guy? You don't know him. He won't take. he might not take your phone call.
Yeah. And how long is it going to take you to figure it out by yourself?
Forever. Maybe you never do it. And that's the thing with the cost of masterminds. If you look at it as a return on investment, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, when I look at things, if I could go back, this I always say, if you could go back 10 years and tell yourself, or 20 years, tell yourself stuff, how much time could you have saved? I don't care if it's business or don't date this girl or whatever. You could save yourself so much headache. That's what a mastermind is. If you're in the right one and you're out there giving and you give your best and you're open to advice and you don't have an ego, which we don't see those in those things.
No.
And there's high level guys in there. It's not a, hey, this is how much I made. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
We all know we're doing well. That's why people are in this thing. And when you do that, it's super powerful. That's what I like to do. If I could go back even to 2012, give myself 2 hours, I could shave 2 years off. Easy.
Yep. Easy, at least.
Not even 2 hours.
Yeah.
20 minutes.
Yep. So talk to us about your mastermind, Blue Collar.
Okay. Well, I started a group. I've been helping blue collar guys for a long time. Even when I was young, my buddies who had other landscaping businesses, I guess I thought more like a white collar guy than a blue collar guy. Yep. I would always think about marketing, and I was always good at getting customers. So as I got older, for the last 10 years, people have just, hey, you should ask Kevin Marron. He did this, and I would do a 30-minute phone call, and people would always be shocked. I'd give them so much. I wouldn't try to not tell them what I do. I would say, do this.
Yeah.
This is why, and everything. And I get this feedback. I get a text 2 weeks from some guy, and he'd say, Kevin, this shit works. I got this, or I got 4 roofs doing that, man. Thanks. So I thought the blue collar thing in general, people don't think that big. White collar guys are always thinking about making 10 million and stuff like that. They can see it. They have the borrowed belief. They're around people a lot of times in their office who've done it. And blue collar guys, they're in a truck and they're not around guys who make millions of dollars a lot of times, so they don't do it. So I decided I wanted to have this thing. I asked Chris Garrison because I wanted another guy who has he's got a great personality. And we do calls like this. We bring blue collar millionaires on once every Tuesday. They tell the story. The stories are so similar. It's always it's a grind and everything. And I put up free advice and different marketing tactics that work. And I really want to see, my goal is, how do I get guys to be more successful, have more time for their family, and not have to get beat up like I did. Because it's rough, John.
There's no such thing as an easy day.
And I get from helping people. I get a ton out of it.
Yeah. I
love to see guys doing well. So then we did a mastermind. John spoke at it. That was great, giving everybody advice. But I'm talking to all those guys all the time. I love to hear about their successes and everything. Yeah. I want to see a guy who's at $600,000 a year in sales get to $1 million. I mean, that can be life altering. And then get from $1 million to $3 million. All of a sudden, everything changes. Your kids are going to private schools. You're going on the best vacations. You have peace of mind. You have a sellable asset.
Yeah.
You could be 6 years old and sell your business for $5 million and live a life of your dream. And it's not this crazy difference. It's just tweaks and thinking different. So I want to help people do that. So that's what I do. And I have a Facebook page called Blue Collar Millionaire. We're also bluecollarmillionaire.net. And now we have a thing called the War Room. That's everything else is free. This is a monthly group where we're helping people try to acquire businesses. I think that's a great way to wealth. If you can buy businesses for great deals. It doesn't have to be blue collar, but make sure it's recession proof. Yeah. Blue collars, man, you can get blue collar businesses for really good. You can make a ton of money on them. And if you buy a business that's already making money and then you go in there and market it and increase it, you can make a ton of money in 3 to 5 years for sure. Yeah. And then exit.
Dude, I love it. And I will say this, that was a incredible event. And some events, it's I don't want to say theory, but it's not brass tacks. It's not detailed. It's not actionable items. Go in there. You guys put so much thought, so much detail. Every little thing was covered from the chef to the house and the strategy with step by step on how to do everything to build their business. Man, I was blown away. And just, I could tell you, watching the room and looking at everybody that was in there, I think they all had carpal tunnel writing so many notes. But that was solid.
I appreciate that. You know, I had the benefit of being at several masterminds and Chris, and we actually made a list of what we liked and what we didn't like. And I never really liked too much theory.
Yep.
I want to get guys going back and like, hey, if you do just these 3 things, don't try to do 21 things because you'll do 0.
Yep.
Do 3 of these. And like, you're going to make a lot of money because I made a lot of money on them. One of them was VAs. You're going to make money if you do it and you do it right. The other one is, I always talk about, is going commercial, getting bigger jobs. There's actually much less competition in big jobs than there is in small. It's absolutely true. You can there's bigger margins. You can pay your guys more. You'll make a lot more money. That's another one. You know, and then we talked about, Chris talked about operations and different stuff. We didn't want to overwhelm. We want to get, hey, do these things, building a database and reaching out to those commercial jobs too. I mean, I made millions of dollars doing that.
Dude, that was awesome.
Anybody can do that. It's not rocket science, you know. It's, you know, I'm cleaning gutters here. It's not. We're not. I used to say that to my guys when I'd be in a van and they didn't want to work. I said, guys, it's not, you know, we're not saving lives here. Cleaning gutters. Relax. We're all going to be home tonight. You know, it's all going to be good. Because some people have really serious jobs, and this isn't one of them. So anybody can do this. You can apply all these things to anything. Just got to get out there and be resourceful. Look for people to listen to. Chris and I just signed on to do a podcast. We're going to be doing a Blue Collar Millionaire podcast, and you know what I hope that is. I hope they're going to be 20-minute episodes on different subjects, and I hope that people, blue collar guys driving around their trucks doing estimates and doing jobs, listen to one of them every day, and they take things and they're like, they look back like how I looked at that podcast on VAs, and I would love to call that guy up and say, bro, that podcast, I don't even know his name.
Yeah. I
just listened to it randomly, and I had it saved on one of my phones, and I lost it. I listened to it like 6 times, and I would love to tell that guy, man, you kind of changed my life. You gave me my time back. I might not have figured that out. So I wanted to help guys, and maybe they're grossing $300,000 a year. If I can give them some ideas to gross 600, which isn't that hard, I'm happy to do that.
Man, I love it. Thank you so much for this. Where can anyone find you? Like, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
You know, best way is at Facebook. It's Kevin Marron, Marron. There's only 3 or 4 other ones on there, but you'll see me. You'll know which one I am. There is another bald guy who kind of looks like me. But Kevin Marron, Marron on Facebook. If you message me, you tell me you saw this or anything, I try to reply to everybody's messages and everything. You got to friend me first, otherwise you get in spam. But I like to help people out. If you have any questions, and definitely come over to the Facebook page, Blue Collar Millionaire, join on there and ask questions, make comments. And I'm in there every day commenting back on stuff and everything. I like it. I love doing this stuff.
I know. Dude, this was awesome. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you. And guys, catch us on the next Business Spotlight. And please go follow Kevin and join that group, because I can tell you he puts more content into that group than most groups I've ever seen or been a part of. So there's a lot to learn, and he's definitely the guy to teach it.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, John.